Have you ever been treated like you're invisible? Like no matter what you do, you'll never be good enough for your own family? That was my life. My name is Ethan. I'm 20 years old, and this is a story of how my sister humiliated me at a family dinner until I proved her wrong in a way she never saw coming. From as far back as I can remember, my sister Clara was the perfect child. At least, that's how my parents saw her. She was older than me by 2 years, always dressed in designer clothes, always invited to the best parties, and always praised by my mom and dad. Meanwhile, I was the quiet one. I studied, I worked part-time jobs, and I didn't spend money on fancy things. To my family, that made me boring and broke. But what they didn't know was that behind the scenes, I had been working hard on something big. I had a small online business that I started in high school, flipping electronics, and then later building a small e-commerce brand. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't something I bragged about, but it was growing. Still, none of that mattered at home. At every dinner, Clara would show off her new phone, her expensive clothes, her fancy perfume, while I sat quietly in my old hoodie. My parents laughed at her jokes, complimented her looks, and ignored me unless they needed me to run an errand. I got used to being in her shadow. But that night, the night of the dinner, everything changed. It was supposed to be just a simple family gathering. My parents had invited some extended relatives, my aunt and uncle, a couple cousins, even some family friends. We all went to this fancy restaurant downtown, one of those places where the menu doesn't even show prices. I remember walking in and feeling a little out of place because everyone was dressed up in expensive suits and dresses. I wore what I always wore, jeans and a clean shirt. Nothing fancy, nothing that screamed money. And Clara noticed right away. "Ethan," she said with that fake smile of hers, "you actually wore that to this restaurant." People laughed. I forced a smile, but inside I felt that sting I'd felt 100 times before. I could hear the whispers too, my aunt saying, "Clara's always been so classy," while another cousin snickered at me. I thought I could just ignore it. I thought I could just eat my food quietly and let the night pass. But Clara wasn't done. Halfway through the meal, when the waiter came around with a wine list, Clara leaned back in her chair, glanced at me, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Ethan can't afford anything here. He probably shouldn't even order. I mean, what's he gonna do, split the bill with us? That's cute." The whole table chuckled. My dad even smiled. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. It wasn't just embarrassment. It was the years of being overlooked, the years of being treated like less, the years of swallowing my pride. I looked at Clara, then at my parents, and for once, I didn't smile. "Funny," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "because money isn't exactly your strong suit either." Her eyes narrowed. The table went silent. My mom quickly tried to change the subject, but I didn't miss the smirk on Clara's face. She thought she had won. Again, that I would sit there embarrassed while everyone laughed at me. But I had a plan. See, before that night, I had already been working on something. My business had finally hit a big milestone, and I had been saving for months. I hadn't told anyone. Not my parents, not my friends, not even Clara. But what I had planned was going to shut her up forever. As I sat there eating my food, I kept imagining the look on her face when she realized I wasn't the broke little brother she thought I was. I wanted her to feel the same humiliation she had thrown at me for years. And then it happened, just as dessert was being served. Clara reached for her wine glass, ready to make another one of her jokes at my expense. But her hand slipped, the glass tipped, and with a sharp crash, it fell to the floor, shattering into pieces. Everyone gasped. Clara's face went pale. She looked around the table, suddenly not so confident, suddenly not so perfect. And me? I smiled for the first time that night, because in that moment, I knew her little world of superiority was about to collapse. But she didn't know what I had planned. She didn't know that the broke little brother she loved to humiliate was about to take center stage. And the next few minutes, they would change everything between us. The sound of that glass shattering echoed through the restaurant. For a moment, nobody spoke. The waiter rushed over with napkins. My mom scolded Clara to be careful, and my dad tried to laugh it off. But I just sat there, watching my sister's confident mask slip for the very first time. She avoided my eyes, flustered, embarrassed. For once, she wasn't the center of admiration. She was the center of a mistake. And in that silence, I realized it was my chance. I cleared my throat. I said slowly, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. It's funny how things can shatter in a second, like reputations or lies. The table went quiet again. Clara's head snapped toward me. What's that supposed to mean? She hissed. I shrugged, leaning back in my chair. Just saying, you shouldn't underestimate people. Sometimes the ones you think can't afford anything are the ones who can afford more than you ever imagined. A couple of my cousins raised their eyebrows. My aunt looked intrigued. Even my dad, who rarely took my side, tilted his head like he was actually listening for once. Clara let out a sarcastic laugh. Oh, please. What? Did you save up $20 from your little part-time job? Don't embarrass yourself. Ethan, we all know you're just scraping by. Her words burned, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I smiled. Is that what you think? That I'm scraping by? Of course, she snapped. Look at you. You don't wear designer clothes. You don't drive a nice car. You don't even pay for these dinners. Dad does. You're a joke. The sting of her words cut deep, but inside, I felt something else rising. A calmness, because she had just set herself up for the biggest fall of her life. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. Clara, do you ever wonder why I don't brag about what I do? Why I don't flash money around like you? She rolled her eyes. Because you don't have any. That was when I pulled my phone from my pocket. My heart was racing, but my voice stayed steady. I unlocked the screen, tapped into my bank app, and slid it across the table so the whole family could see. Gasps echoed around me. 6 figures. Clear as day. Clara's jaw dropped. My mom's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My dad leaned forward, blinking like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Ethan, my uncle muttered, eyes wide, Is that your account? I nodded calmly. Yeah, that's mine. From the business I've been running the last couple of years. While Clara was out shopping and partying, I was building something. Something real. Clara stammered, her face red. That's fake. You probably edited that or something. There's no way. I chuckled. Funny you say that, because if you look outside, everyone turned toward the restaurant windows. At first, no one noticed. Then, headlights swept across the glass as a car pulled up to the valet. Not just any car, a sleek, brand new electric car, the one I had been saving for. The valet stepped out and held the door open like it was royalty arriving. And when my family saw me stand up, walk over, and hold the keys in my hand, their jaws hit the floor. Clara's wine glass wasn't the only thing dropping that night. I walked back to the table slowly, enjoying every second of their stunned silence. See, Clara, I don't need to afford this dinner. I could buy this whole restaurant if I wanted. But unlike you, I don't measure my worth by how loudly I can brag about it. The room was still. My mom looked ashamed. My dad rubbed his forehead, like he didn't know what to say. My cousins exchanged whispers, shocked. But Clara? She was furious. You think you're better than me just because you have money now. She snapped, her voice shaking. You think that changes anything? You're still the boring little brother. Nobody cares about your stupid business. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I said softly, No, Clara, I don't think I'm better than you. I just think you spent so long tearing people down that you can't handle when someone finally stands up to you. Her face twisted in rage. She grabbed her napkin, slammed it onto the table, and stormed out of the restaurant. The silence she left behind was heavier than anything I'd ever felt. Everyone was watching me, waiting to see what I'd say or do next. And inside, I knew this wasn't over. Clara wasn't the type to accept humiliation quietly. She would come after me again. She would try to tear me down harder than ever before. But this time, I was ready, because I had proven I wasn't the weak little brother anymore. And the next move was mine. I thought maybe Clara would cool off after storming out of the restaurant, but I should have known better. My sister never backed down. The very next day, I woke up to buzzing notifications on my phone. Dozens of texts, tags, and messages. Clara had gone online. She had posted about me on every social media platform she could, painting me as a liar and a fraud. He photoshopped those numbers. One of her posts read, Ethan is broke. He borrowed a car to impress us. He's pathetic. Don't believe a word he says. Hundreds of people had seen it already. Friends, family, even old classmates. Some believed her. Some defended me. But all of them were talking about me. Thanks to Clara. I clenched my fists. She wanted war? Fine. I'd give her war. But this time, I wasn't going to just prove her wrong. I was going to end her games once and for all. That evening, my family gathered again, this time at our house. Clara walked in smug, like she'd already won. She smirked when she looked at me. Still pretending, Ethan? She asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. Or are you going to admit you're nothing without your little tricks? I smiled calmly. Actually, Clara, I was waiting for you. Because tonight, I'm not just telling the truth. I'm showing it. I walked over to the TV and connected my laptop. A presentation popped up. Not just numbers or screenshots, but legal documents, contracts, and receipts, all tied to my business. The clients I worked with, the payments I'd received, the growth charts, everything. Gasps filled the room as slide after slide proved that my account wasn't fake. My car wasn't borrowed. My success was real. But that wasn't even the best part. See, Clara, I said, my voice steady. You've been spending money you don't have. Dad's money. Credit cards. Loans. But I didn't tell anyone until now. Her face went pale. I clicked the next slide. Bank statements appeared on the screen. Statements I had gotten through a lawyer when Clara's unpaid debt started stacking up under my father's name. The room exploded. My dad shot up from his chair. Clara, what is this? He demanded. It's not what it looks like. She stammered, her voice trembling. But it was too late. The proof was right there. For years, Clara had pretended to be the golden child while secretly draining our parents' money. And now the mask was gone. You wanted to expose me? I said, my tone sharp. Well, congratulations. Now everyone sees the truth. She broke down, sobbing, begging Dad to believe her. But this time he didn't. My mom shook her head, tears in her eyes. My cousins whispered to each other, some of them glaring at her in disgust. The mighty Clara, who had always acted untouchable, was finally exposed. And me? I just stood there, calm, collected, because revenge isn't always about yelling the loudest. Sometimes it's about letting the truth speak for itself. Later that night, when everyone else had gone home, my dad pulled me aside. His voice was quieter than I'd ever heard. Ethan, he said, I'm sorry. I should have trusted you more. You worked hard, and I never gave you the credit you deserved. But tonight, you showed me the man you've become. For the first time, I saw pride in his eyes when he looked at me. Real pride, not the forced kind he always reserved for Clara. As for her, well, things changed fast. Dad cut off her access to his accounts. She had to start working for the first time in her life. The world didn't treat her like royalty anymore. And though part of me wanted to keep rubbing it in her face, I didn't. because in the end, the best revenge wasn't just exposing Clara. It was proving to myself and to everyone else that I was stronger than her insults, that I wasn't the weak little brother anymore. At the next family dinner, Clara barely spoke. She kept her head down while I laughed with my cousins and shared plans about expanding my business even further. She glanced at me a few times, but there was no arrogance in her eyes anymore, only shame. And in that moment, I realized I had already won, because sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about reclaiming the respect they try to take away from you. So, what do you think? Was I right to expose my sister in front of the whole family? Or should I have kept it private? Let me know in the comments, because I'm curious what you would have done in my shoes. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this video with someone who loves a good twist ending. Trust me, there are plenty more stories where this came from.